Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that takes the lead in today's edition for Monday, 17th February 2025, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillian Group. Caribbean and Africa urged to take steps to connect the two regions. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. Barbados wants countries in the Caribbean and Africa to take concrete steps in building the much talked about air and sea bridges linking the two regions. In making the call, Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Motley, says this ensures Africa and the Caribbean control their destiny. Ms. Motley was addressing the 38th African Union Summit in Ethiopia. The summit, which is themed Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations, brought together heads of state and government from all 55 African Union member states, alongside leaders from international organizations, non-governmental organizations, and the private sector. Ms. Motley urged the international community to take their calls for reparations seriously, telling former colonial powers to not only say sorry, but mean it. She told African leaders the future of the world is not possible without the stability of the continent and its diaspora.
I ask us to reflect on this because it is this simple act, apart from our music and our culture and our food, that will guarantee that it is not simply heads of government and heads of state that will meet in Accra or Bridgetown, but it is ordinary people who will be able to trade and to move from the closest point of Dakar to the closest point of Bridgetown, to be able to open up the opportunities that technically ought to be available not just simply through the Africa Free Trade Area or the CARICOM single market and economy, but through the combined opportunities provided by both. The reparations that we call for, beyond sorry, must be for fair access and development and compensation, because we each started the journey of independence with a chronic deficit of resources, a deficit of fairness, a deficit of opportunity. And it is up to us, many of us in the second and third generation of independence, to be able to frame out fairly in a mature conversation what those reparations must look like if we are to attain justice and to inspire the young people of this world.
Barbados, meantime, is being told not to be too alarmed by the recently launched Chinese artificial intelligence app DeepSeek. Following its release, U.S. tech stocks fell after experts deemed it rivaling the capabilities of American models. However, Managing Director of CariSec Global, Edward Mellington, says AI will become part of our everyday life. Speaking during a webinar hosted by the Barbados Coalition of Service Industries on the topic of DeepSeek and the shift in the AI ecosystem, he says his main concern is how trustworthy these AI systems are, especially in the Caribbean. Mr. Millington gave his insights on what he thinks Caribbean countries should do to protect themselves from the risks of AI.
Our main concern is what everybody keep on hearing: the responsible use of AI, in its development, in its deployment. Is it trustworthy? And I think that's one of the main things that we in the Caribbean have to really kind of focus on, because how are you teaching this AI? right now, AI in its particular sense, especially large language models and so forth, is non-transparent in terms of how it operates. And from our risk approach is the governance that's being put in place to make sure that the correct deployment or correct development and deployment and utilization that can be risk assessed, so that in other words, to reduce not only risk to businesses and persons, but also to democracies. I think from a more security point of view, we should be looking to make sure that these models, in terms of how it communicate and interact with us, are not transforming us to be like another country. I think that's what we need to be looking at, because you will find vulnerabilities in everything. But what we should be more concerned about is not only what is taught, as we already know in terms of facial recognition and being able to understand our language. The fact is, how are these systems being taught, and are they slowly transforming us into somebody else's culture? That's what we should be more concerned with.
In the wake of fresh corruption claims, the UNC's political leader in Trinidad and Tobago is standing behind Member of Parliament Dr. Rudal Monilal. Prasad Bisesar says the latest allegations made against Dr. Monilal by the Estate Management and Business Development Company are a fabrication and tantamount to a political witch hunt. CNC3's Jesse Ramdio has more.
Incumbent Urupuch East MP Dr. Rudal Monilal will present himself before the party's screening committee on Friday as he seeks yet again to secure the area he has represented for over 2 decades. Fresh corruption allegations have added to those lingering from an EMBD multi-million-dollar cartel lawsuit against a group of contractors which previously cast a shadow on the MP's political career. But his constituents believe their representative is being framed. Dr. Monilal said the claims in the amended lawsuit suggesting that he was connected to third parties who benefited from payments made by contractors was another attempt at political victimization.
They have now found themselves where they cannot defend their initial claim. They cannot defend their initial allegation, and they have changed the allegations. Now, after 10 years, you cannot do that. That is a matter the lawyers will argue and so on. You cannot come with a fresh case after 10 years. There's a statute that bars these kind of things as well.
Opposition leader Kamla Prasad said the process was a waste of taxpayers' money and defended Dr. Monilal.
I am of the view that they continue to fabricate and make up as they go along. What they've put thus far in the case it has been rushed, and now they're scrambling and fighting to find something else, which is total nonsense.
Jesse Ramdale, CNC3 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick, in association with our friends at
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Finance Minister Colm Imbert says Caribbean Airlines reported an operating profit of $12.1 million in 2021. Andrea Perez-Sobas has more in the CNC3's Business Watch.
The majority state-owned Caribbean Airlines Limited reported an operating profit of US $12.1 million in 2024, according to Minister of Finance Colm Imbert. However, the profit excludes debt service, which represented a decline of 51% compared to the operating profit of US $24.7 million in 2023.
In 2024, the operating profit is still positive at US $12.1 million. And this profit was affected by some factors: increase in maintenance costs, handling costs, and security flight operations. But notwithstanding these increased costs and the fact that the airline is expanding its fleet and hiring more pilots and more crew and more personnel.
Speaking at the Customers Appreciation event at Queen's Hall on Wednesday afternoon, CARL's CEO Garvin Madeira highlighted that later this year, the airline will be making some announcements about additions to other multicultural destinations.
Stay tuned. Even more new adventures are just around the corner, and it will be exciting. In 2024, our passenger numbers grew. We had 6% more passengers compared to 2023, and more than 2 million passenger journeys. In 2024, inside Caribbean Airlines, our numbers grew.
CARL's chairman S. Ronnie Mohammed also signaled within the next 12 to 18 months The airline will be expanding the fleet to include regional jets, which would further bolster its reach throughout the region and beyond.
The Bahamas' Minister of Foreign Affairs, Fred Mitchell, opened an embassy in the United Arab Emirates. More in this ZNS News item.
On the long road to establishing formal diplomatic ties ends with the Bahamas opening an embassy in the United Arab Emirates, which also serves as a center for relations with Saudi Arabia and Qatar. The embassy's opening follows the Bahamas signing a visa abolition agreement with the UAE and an MOU on technical assistance with the promise of additional agreements on asset protection and double taxation.
These proposals and agreements are designed to promote the deepening of cultural and people-to-people ties, economic cooperation and technical assistance, and functional cooperation in the sphere of foreign policy. We're seeking 7 offices in international organizations in the next voting cycles and into the future. These include elections to offices in the International Maritime Organization Category C this year, an office in the International Telecommunications Union, an office in the Food and Agricultural Organization, and a non-permanent seat on the Security Council in the year 2032 to 34, with the election taking place in the fall of 2031. We've concluded in this life that we cannot be wallflowers but active participants, even as some have chosen to abandon the established world international order in a retreat to isolationism and jingoism. As a small developing state, we have no choice but to go the other direction.
Foreign Affairs Minister, the Honorable Fred Mitchell, also used the opportunity to reiterate the Bahamas' top foreign policy issue, climate change.
The prediction by some models is that without more, the island on which our capital city is situate, 30% of it will be underwater by 2070 and 70% by the year 2100. That is within the lifetime of babies born today. We pledge to work together with UAE and the region to continue the COP process and plan to be at the table in Brazil in November.
Jamaica's electoral office is gearing up for the 2025 general elections, constitutionally due on September 3rd. Shamila Pullen anchors this TVG News item.
This following the allocation of nearly $2 billion in the estimates of expenditure for the 2025-2026 financial year. Director of Elections, Glasspool Brown, says more people have been expressing an interest in being
The Office of Jamaica have started this preparation. We are now in the phase of recruiting our workers. Then we're going to move into the training of our election day workers. We are also in the process of procuring a number of supplies that we're going to need for the elections. The response is okay so far. We still need a number of persons to come on board. So then the persons who have worked for us in the past are reapplying. And we have seen an uptick in recent times of new recruits, new applicants. So we are working towards our target. Our target is to recruit at least 25,000 persons to assist us on the day.
Mr. Brown is reminding Jamaicans to collect their voter ID cards or apply for renewal.
It will certainly assist us on the day of election in order to let the process be a little bit more faster than if you do not have your card. So if you have not yet gotten your new ID card, I would suggest that you do collect those at our different offices across the island.
In the meantime, the Minister of Justice there, Delroy Chuck, says Jamaica is in a crisis as it relates to safety and security. TVJ's Kimberly Peddy reports.
A room full of justices of the peace from Westmoreland, one of the parish's Justice Minister Delroy Chuck says has been a crime hotspot, and so he is hoping to get their continued support to aid the police in fighting crime. Mr. Chuck noted that the parish recorded 100 murders last year, 17 less than 2023.
We're in serious crisis in Jamaica with regards to security and safety. Westmoreland and the Western region has been trouble spots, and the trouble spots have been because you have a number of persons who believe that the way forward is through wrong means.
Mr. Chuck stressed that crime is not the responsibility of the government and police alone, but that law-abiding citizens also have a role to play.
Up to recently, a number of Jamaicans were arrested in the United States, and their addresses were coming from Westmoreland and Hanover. And I'm saying, I don't know how many of you have been seeing it on TikTok or seen it on television. And scamming, for one reason or another, seemed to be a major difficulty in the western part of Jamaica.
He says many tourists would love to experience Jamaica outside the walls of hotels, but crime is robbing them of that opportunity.
Look at the thousands of visitors who are enjoying Jamaica. But they're locked up here in Royal Hotel, locked up in Rio, locked up in Princess Hotel. And they're being told, don't leave, don't go out in the community. Many of them want to drive around Jamaica. But the last thing we want to do is to encourage them to do that, lest they're robbed. And then you get another travel advisory not to come to Jamaica.
On the issue of gangs, he noted that there are too many gangs in Western Jamaica and that
the police have identified some years ago over 300 gangs. Many of them have been neutralized, and many more are being neutralized. It is said you have over 150 now who basically are still active, and the police want to neutralize them.
Kimberly Petty for TVJ News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.